Welcome to today's episode of the Mindset Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Dial. If you have not yet done so, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another podcast episode. And if you love this podcast, please give us a rating and review however you listen to us on Apple, on Spotify, whatever it is. The more positive rating and reviews we get, the more that these platforms show this podcast to other people who have never listened to it before. So if you would do that, I would greatly appreciate it. Today, we're going to be talking about why I think the phrase new year, new you is BS. We're going to talk about who you need to be in 2023. You don't need to be a new you. In order to change your life, you don't need to be a new you. You just need to be a better you. You need to be a better version of who you have been. Now, I hesitate saying the word better in the first place because when you use the phrase better, it automatically means that who I am now is worse. So maybe not even better, maybe more expansive is what I mean when I say better. And so what I want you to do is I want you to think of this. When you look back at 2022, what were your goals for 2022? What was your number one New Year's resolution for this year? Now that we're at the end of the year, what was your number one New Year's resolution for this year? What was your number one goal? And my question is, did you accomplish that goal? Think it in your, this is a rhetorical question, but I want you to answer to yourself in your head or if you're in your car out loud. Did you hit your number one goal for 2022? If the answer is no, which for most people the answer is no because most people give up, 4 out of 5 people give up on their New Year's resolutions goals by February 1st. If you did not hit your number one goal for 2022, it's a really fucking big issue if you think about it. Because if we just went through every single year and accomplished our number one goal every single year, we would build an incredible life. But most people start and then they give up too soon. Because if nothing else, we should cross off our most important thing every single year, shouldn't we? And if you didn't accomplish it this year, if you didn't accomplish your number one goal for this year, what makes you think that next year is going to be any different? Because in order for you to create a different year, you need to change. You need to be a better version, not a new you. You need to be a better you. You need to change. There's something inside of you physically as a person, mind, body, soul that needs to shift in order to create the life that you want to. You can't expect 2023 to be any better or any different than 2022 unless you're different. Einstein says, and you've heard me say it before, you probably heard other people say it before, Einstein says to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results is the definition of insanity. And so if you're going into 2023 exactly the same way that you went into 2022 and you didn't hit your 2022 goals, what makes you think that you're going to hit your 2023 goals? Because listen, there's a pretty good chance that 2023 is going to be hard for a lot of people. And I don't want to scare you, but I want to prep you to make sure that you create the best year that you can. There's inflation, there's recession, there's housing bubbles that might be popping. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't predict the future, but these are all potential things that could happen in 2023, right? We can all agree on that. The inflation that's happening, the recession that we're going through, the housing bubble that could pop, all of these are potential things that could happen. And I was talking with Tony Robbins earlier this week, a few days ago. That podcast episode is going to be coming out sometime in January. But I was talking with Tony Robbins and he said in the podcast that our number one focus should be working on ourselves at all times. And I've always thought that. Our number one focus should always be working on ourselves and making sure that we become the better version of ourselves with everything that we do. When things are good, you should be working on yourself. When things are bad, you should be working on yourself. There should be no difference. Actually, maybe there is a little bit of a difference. That difference should be you should work on yourself harder when things are bad. Because when you build yourself every single day, when it's bad or when it's quote unquote hard, it's not that bad for you. You have built yourself into the person that can handle it. And so the way I like to think about it is, and as I was preparing this episode, I started thinking about okay, there's always storms in life, right? And there's always storms in the world. I grew up in Florida. And Florida gets hit by hurricanes all of the time. And I've seen crazy things that have happened after a hurricane. I've seen houses destroyed. I've seen parts of houses in trees 30 feet up in the air in the middle of the interstate. Like 30 feet up on top of a tree in the middle of the median. I've seen crazy things happen. I've seen houses destroyed, all of these things because a hurricane came through and knocked them all over, right? Now, houses today are made with wooden frames, and that's why they when a hurricane hits them, they usually fall over. Now, if you look at that, you could also go to St. Augustine. St. Augustine has a fort that was built in the 1600s, and it's a fort. That's why I say it's built like a fort. A fort. Like I'm talking about, this thing was built in the 1600s, and I don't think any hurricane can knock this thing over. It was built with more intention and with more of the right materials than a house is in 2022. A hurricane comes, and if you're in a hurricane and you have the option to be in a wooden frame house or a fort from the 1600s, which one would you want to be in? You'd want to be in a fort from the 1600s, right? Because it is built properly. It takes a lot longer to build a fort made out of concrete stone that was done by hand than it does for a wooden frame house, but it was built correctly. That's what we need to think about for ourselves. When we have a storm of life coming through, which 2023 could be a storm for a lot of people, we need to make sure that we are prepared and we build ourselves into being the right person, because we don't know what the future is going to be. I don't know what the future is going to be, but I do want to make sure that no matter what, I'm building myself all of the time to be that person. So at some point in time, you've got to look in the mirror and you've got to say like, okay, this life that I have, is this what I want? Am I showing up the way that I want to? Am I accomplishing my goals? Am I treating people the way that I want to? Am I ending up, accomplishing these 2022 New Year's resolutions? Well, if I'm not, what's going to make everything different next year? You've got to look at yourself in the mirror. And if you look at what your life is, and maybe your life is okay, maybe it's not. I don't know where your life is, but at some point you got to be like, I'm done with this. I'm done with this life. I'm done with not living up to my potential. I'm done with not stepping up and becoming the person that I know I can be. And it's got to start for you. And that's why January can be so good for so many people, is because it feels like a fresh start. You get past all of the Christmas, and you get past the holidays, and you get past the New Year's, and you're like, okay, I don't have things for a little while. I can actually start to work on myself. And it's got to start in January. You've got to figure out what it is that you want. And when you figure out what it is that you want, make a plan to get it. And then do not give up, because you've done that too many times. You have given up on yourself way too many times. How different would your life be? I keep asking this question, people. How different would your life be if you didn't give up so many times? Your life would be vastly different, but you've just given up so many times. And that's what is important for you to think about, is how different would your life be if you just did not give up? Man, okay, it would be vastly different. Okay, how different would my life be in the future if I just decided to make a decision and to not give up on myself? And that's what I want you to think about. What are you going to do? And this is what I want to leave you with today, is what are you going to do to make sure that next year is different for you than it was this year, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before that? What are you going to do to make the year different? And that's what I want you to ponder on. That's the question I want you to write down. That's the question I want you to journal through. What am I going to change in myself? What am I going to change in my external circumstances, in my life, in my planning, in my goal setting, to make sure that I do not give up on myself in 2023? So that's what I got for you for today's episode. And if you're out there and you're like, hey, I want to make 2023 the best year of my life, you can do it on your own if you want to, or you can do it with me and a bunch of other people. You guys know 4 out of 5 people end up giving up on their New Year's resolutions goals. So I have a 31-day challenge that starts January 1st. You have to sign up before January 1st. And so there's going to be 7 simple but really, really powerful habits that we've got to hit every single day. So if your goal is to lose weight, or to get into the relationship that you want to, or to get a new job, or to start a business, or to get your money right, it's designed to strengthen your mind, your body, your soul, everything. And I'm going to be assisting you. I'm going to have daily live lessons. You can ask me questions in those daily live lessons. We're going to have guided meditations. We're going to have daily journaling questions. So if you're out there and you don't want to go through and have the exact same that you've always had, and you want to join us, I would love to see you there. You could go through and you could do it on your own if you want to, or you can do it with a group of hundreds and hundreds of people who are going to be going on the exact same path. So once again, if you want to learn more about it, it is a 31-day challenge starting January 1st. It's the entire entire month of January. You can go to limitless31.com to learn more. Once again, limitless31.com. And there's more information. There's a video there. And for those of you guys that sign up before Christmas, so if you listen to this before Christmas, you'll actually get $50 off for getting the early bird special. But you want to make sure you sign up before Christmas. So once again, it is limitless31.com. We've done this with thousands and thousands of people, so I'm excited to do it with you this year. And we're going to have 7 specific habits that you got to have every single day to build habits into yourself. We have like I said, the guided meditations. We have the daily journaling sessions. We have the daily live lessons where I'm going to be doing them every single day with you guys. So would love to see your faces there. So if you're interested, join us. And with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make someone else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Welcome to today's episode of the Mindset Mentor Podcast. I am your host, Rob Dial. Today, we're going to be talking about how to purge stuff from your life. We're going to talk about going through a massive purge, and it's something that I recommend that you do a few times a year. 2 to 4 times a year is what I recommend, either every 6 months or every quarter. And it's kind of like spring cleaning, but it would be spring cleaning, it'd also be summer cleaning, it'd also be fall cleaning and winter cleaning for your entire life. I don't mean that you have to just go through and purge your clothes or just go ahead and dust up every corner of your house. You can definitely do that if you want. I'm talking about the whole person that you are. I want you to look around your entire life and look at something and say, is this serving me anymore? And if it's not serving you anymore, can you let go of it? Can you actually purge it? Because imagine this, just imagine that every single thing, and this is the way I like to think about things, imagine that every single thing that you own, it could be from a car to a house to a pencil. Every one of those things occupies a little teeny piece of your brain. Even if it's a pen that is inside of your drawer that you haven't seen in 3 years. Just imagine that every single one of them owns a piece of your brain, just a little tiny piece. How much of your brain is scattered all over the place? What if we could get rid of all of the things that are not serving us in any sort of way? And I'll tell you what I mean by serving you in just a minute. And start going, you know what? If it's not serving me, there's no reason to have it anymore. If it's not serving me, there's no reason to have it. And so when I talk about serving you, what I mean by, is it helping you get to where you want to go in life? Is it helping you or is it hurting you? And if it's not helping you, there's no real reason for it to be around. But we like to hoard things and go, well, maybe in the future I will need this thing that I've had for 17 years but haven't used it in so long. It's like, why don't you just purge those things? Why don't you just let go of them? Why don't you just have, and I'm not talking about being a minimalist, which I do think that would be good for a lot of people, but just having less so that you can have more mental space. That's really the way I like to think about it. Because all too often we hang on to things that we just don't really need them around anymore. That could be physical things, but it could also be thoughts. It could be habits. It could be other people because we think we might need them later on down the road. But if it's not propelling you forward in life, it's weighing you down in some sort of way. And when you purge, you move faster. You feel lighter. Life becomes more effortless. You think quicker on your feet and you don't have that mental energy scattered all over the place. And so some of you may have never done this before. Once again, I'm not just talking about cleaning out your environment. That will be a part of it. But really, some of you have never done this before, which means that when you do this, you will feel like a different person. It will help you. And I like to call it the Great Purge. And really, the Great Purge, it's not the most fun day. It's not the most fun thing you could do. And some people are going to listen to this podcast episode and you're not going to do shit. I already know that. But some of you are going to listen to this podcast episode, you're going to do it, you're going to implement it, and it's going to make you feel better. And what you do is you take one day and you do nothing but purge. You get rid of whatever is not serving you, whatever is not propelling you to be better. And I'm going to teach you all the different categories and just a few that popped up into my head as I was planning this. And there's quite a few more. But really, it's not just spring cleaning. It is mental and emotional cleaning as well. It is mental, emotional cleaning more than it's spring cleaning. So when I say like, oh, throw away of a pen, yeah, that's fine. Like you could throw away a pen. But I'd prefer you throw away that toxic relationship of this person that's just been kind of lingering around. And you're saying to yourself, well, I'm keeping them around because we were friends in middle school and I would feel really bad if I didn't hang out with them anymore. But there's a part of you that knows like they're holding me back. Like they're really just holding me back in some sort of way. And so, we could talk about physical objects and we will, but we're going to really dive into some deep stuff. And we're going to go through every single thing in your house, every single thing in your relationships, every single thing in your thoughts, all of that stuff. And we're just going to get rid of everything that doesn't serve you. Purge anything that doesn't serve you. Stop hoarding all of the things. Everything that you own takes a tiny piece of real estate in your subconscious. And so we want to design your life to support you in hitting your goals. hitting your goals is hard enough. But if you have all of these things that are just holding you back in some sort of way, it's only making it harder. So wouldn't it be easier if we could just make it easier on you? That's what we're trying to do. So let's dive into it. Mental. What about thoughts? What are some thoughts that you have? You know, with my wife, I'm going to have her on the podcast soon, and we're going to talk through this. But we were together for like 5 years before she really opened up to me and told me that she was so tough on herself and just talked so much shit to herself. And eventually she got to a point where she's like, this isn't serving me. Being this way is not serving me. Talking shit to myself is not helping me get to where I want to go. And so really what it came down to is a mental purge of like, how do I speak to myself? And is that helping me or is that hurting me? Because if you're, like I said, hitting your goals is hard enough, but if you're shitty to yourself, man, that's so much harder. It's like somebody punching you in the face as you're trying to run the marathon, right? It just makes it's unnecessary. You don't need to. So I want you to think of like inside of your own head, what goes on? How do you talk to yourself? What fears do you have? Are those fears helping you in some sort of way? Because some fears can help you in some way, but a lot of fears really hold you back. And so really start to take a pen and paper, write this stuff down and think like, okay, category of mental. How do I speak to myself? What fears do I have? What limiting beliefs do I have? Are these things helping me or are they hurting me? And if they're hurting you, how can you start to work through them? Now, the process of my wife starting to work through the way that she talks to herself has been years now. 3 or 4 years she's been working on it. And she's way better than she was, but we had a conversation a couple of days ago and she's still not where she wants to be. She still says some things. She still holds herself back mentally. And that's just a process of just purging them, slowly starting. If she could get rid of all of them at once and flip a switch, she definitely would. But sometimes things have been there. They've been habits for so long that's just really hard to let go of the way that you talk to yourself. And so thoughts that go through your head. Maybe you're more of like a pessimist. Is that pessimism really helping you get to where you want to go? Something to think about. And you start to go through your life and say like, in the way that I speak to myself, in the way that I think of things, maybe you don't talk trash to yourself, but maybe you sit there and you're like, well, I want to do this thing. And you say, oh yeah, but I've never really been a motivated person. I've always kind of been lazy. Is that mindset helping you or is it hurting you? And how do we start to actually switch it? So the first category that I think of is mental. Next thing I think of are your habits. What habits do you have? We all have tons of habits. About 47%, according to Harvard psychologists, a study they did, about 47% of what you do on a daily basis is habits. So can we start to become aware of our habits and say, does this habit help me? Like if you have the habit of waking up early in the morning, that's probably a habit that you want to keep. If you have the habit of, eating Twinkies at 11 p.m. at night, is that one helping you get to where you want to go? And you start thinking about the habits that you have and you take a mental assessment of the entire day. From the moment that you wake up to the moment that you go to bed and you say like, what are my habits? Like the things that I consistently do. I brush my teeth every single morning. Is that helping me? Yeah, I would recommend you continue to brush your teeth. And you start thinking about all the things that you do on a daily basis. Oh, usually after eating, I usually get a cup of coffee. Is that helping me or hurting me? Well, it depends on who you are and what you're trying to do. And while I'm drinking that cup of coffee, I spend 45 minutes on Instagram. That's probably not helping you. So is that something that you need to purge? And you start thinking about the habits that you have throughout the day. Hey, if you're loving this podcast episode about purging things from your life, do me a favor. For the YouTube algorithm, give us a like down below. It helps more than you know. And if you have any topics you want me to cover, comment them down below in the comments. I'll check them out. And maybe you will see one of your comments and your topic covered in a future episode. Next one, going to be a really big one and also triggering for a lot of people, is your relationships. Go through all of your relationships and ask yourself, is your relationship with this person helping you or is it hurting you? And it could be friends, it could be family, it could be significant others, it could be people that you follow on Instagram. That's a big one as well. I'll cover in just a minute. But one of the things I want you to think about is, and I've said this on the podcast, and I've gotten some backlash on this before of people from the podcast as well, is if somebody is holding you back in your life, if somebody talks down to you, if they make you feel less than, if they make your life less peaceful, no matter who they are, there should be an opportunity where if you want to, you could let them go. And this does even go back to your parents. And this is where I get a bunch of backlash. Oh my gosh, how could you ever tell someone to get rid of their father? And then what I say to them is, if you heard some of the stories of what some people's fathers have done to them, you'd go, oh yeah, they should definitely get them out of their life. Because maybe your relationship with your father is not toxic. But when you hear somebody's relationship with their father and what is it they do, and some of the toxic people that are in other people's lives, you'd go, oh yeah, shit. Yeah, I would, yeah, you should get rid of that guy, right? So I get a lot of backlash every time I talk about purging your parents if they are toxic or, spending less time with them. People are like, how could you ever say that? I'm like, if you could hear some of the stories that I've been told from people about what their parents have done to them and what they continue to do to them daily, every single day. I got a message on Instagram the other day and it was just terrible about how someone's mother treats them and what they say to them. But someone's mother says that almost on a daily, every single day, their mother calls them a piece of shit. I'm like, that sounds pretty damn toxic. And so you might be like, well, you can't get rid of your mother, but you have a great relationship with your mother. Well, there's other people. You never really know what people are going through. And so it's something to think about. And it's tough. It's not easy. I know it's not easy, but you can start distancing yourself from some people. Another thing that I would recommend is the people that you follow on Instagram. Every couple months, I go through my Instagram and I unfollow like 150, 200 people because I'm like, is this person helping or hurting me? And about 2 years ago, especially when all the stuff with COVID was happening and it was kind of really ramping up, I unfollowed a lot of people because I realized that I would wake up in the morning and, I'd go through my morning routine and then I'd spend about 5-10 minutes on Instagram and I would see some people's stories. And some people, I didn't realize, but about an hour later, I was like, man, I feel like shit. Why do I feel so bad? And I realized that I was seeing people's stories that were just talking about doom and gloom and conspiracies and this and that. And they were both sides, the right and the left. And they were saying this thing and that thing and this thing and that thing. And I was like, oh my God, seeing other people's stories is making me feel bad throughout the day. And so I just went through and I said, do I enjoy following this person anymore? And what you have to realize is when you decide to follow somebody, I heard James Clear say this one time, when you decide to follow somebody, you're deciding your future thoughts. So if you look at what they're doing, you're following somebody that's a quote unquote celebrity on a reality show and they're just trashing other people and it's throwing people under the bus and it's drama. Is that drama helping your life get better? Or do you think there might be a part of your mind that's kind of, being pulled down by it? So what are some people you should stop following in real life and also on Instagram as well? Another thing you could think about purging as well, go through all of the food in your house. Literally yesterday, I opened up the pantry and I was like, we have so much food that's just sitting here that we haven't used in like 2 years. I was like, we got to purge this entire thing. It's actually what inspired me to make this podcast episode. So I was like, Lauren, we have so much shit in here. We got to get rid of some of these things. We have rice from like 12 years ago, it feels like. Like it's just old. It doesn't need to be in the house. And it's like, I open up the pantry and it's just so much clutter. I'm like, it doesn't feel good to open up this thing. I have to like search for stuff. So we decided on this weekend, we're just going to purge the pantry. So is there food in the house? If you're on your fitness journey, is there certain food that you need to purge from the house? Therefore you don't get tempted. So there's food in the house. What about your finances? What are you spending money on? Have you actually gone through and looked at your finances and see where you're spending your money and seen like, oh man, like I have this thing I've been paying $12 a month for. I haven't used it in 2 years. Well, why don't you recoup? If it's $12 a month, 12 months, that's $144 a year. Could you recoup some extra finances? So start looking through your finances and purging some of the things that you don't need anymore. What about your living situation? Maybe you live with a roommate and you're like, you know what, living with this roommate, I've been trying to wake up early. I'm trying to change my life, but they're up late, they're partying, they bring people over and they wake me up in the middle of the night. Maybe your living situation needs to change. And it might not be like an immediate thing that changes today, but it's something that you could start moving towards. So you could change your living situation. Also, when you look at your living situation, think about your entire house. Does your house facilitate you growing and becoming better? I always say this all the time. So many people spend time watching too much TV. And if you find yourself watching too much TV, can you go for the next 30 days, I'm going to take my TV off the wall, I'm going to throw it inside of the closet, and I'm just going to put books on the coffee table instead. When you come over to my house, we have like 10 books on the coffee table. Just because there's sometimes I find myself there and it's like, I could be on Instagram or I could pick up a book. And at least I have the decision. I'm like, I'm going to pick up this book instead. And so look at your living situation. Next thing I think about, technology. What technology do you have in your life that you don't really need anymore? If we go back to the TV I just explained, like, are you spending too much time? You know, it'd be really good is if Netflix had like screen time the same way that you have screen time on your iPhone. Netflix came in and said at a weekly report, this is how much time you spent every single day on Netflix. Most people are like, what the hell? I think the average person spends about 2.5 to 3 hours a day on Netflix. And so do you spend too much time on your TV? Could you start to purge some of that? What about social media? Are there social media apps you're spending too much time on you can delete? I don't know. It's completely up to you. I know that I took Instagram off my phone, and I have two phones. I have my personal phone and I have my business phone. And my business phone is where I post on Instagram, and it stays inside of my office. I never move it it's always charging all the time. And I have Instagram on that phone. I don't have it on my personal phone. I took it off. My screen time went down 22% the very first week. I gained 22% back. It was like an hour and 15 minutes I gained back just from not having it. So maybe you could try out purging some social media for a little while. Try it for 30 days. If you don't like it and you want to have it back, re-download it. Not a big deal. Okay, what about your physical possessions? Like, what are things that you actually own where you're like, I don't need this anymore. This is too much stuff. What's your garage look like? Oh God, right? Probably have a lot of stuff in your garage you can get rid of. What do your possessions look like? Could you have a garage sale, make some extra money, do some of that money, go to a conference? What if you decided to get rid of some of the possessions that are just hanging out in your garage that you don't have anymore? You had a garage sale, you get an extra $1,000, $2,000, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to go to a self-development conference. Then you go to some sort of conference, or maybe you go to some conference of something that you're interested in. Maybe you're interested in cryptocurrency, and you go to cryptocurrency conference, whatever it might be, and you actually start working towards your goals a little bit more. Wouldn't that be better than just keeping that stuff in there? Because those things are worth money. You could get rid of them. You haven't been golfing in 12 years. You still have your golf clubs? Maybe you can make a couple $100 off those golf clubs, right? So you start thinking about the possessions that you have as well. And then the last thing, and there's many categories of life, the last thing I think of is like your goals and your vision. Your goals and your vision are going to change over time. You could purge some goals. This doesn't really line up. We're halfway through the year. This one that I had, that was a New Year's resolution, doesn't really line up with me anymore. I'm going to change this around a little bit. I'm going to make it different. What about your vision? Your vision should change over life. Like, you should always know kind of the direction that you're going in, like your North Star, where you're following this thing. But there might be some things that don't necessarily align with you anymore. And that's completely fine. What we're really trying to work at here is to clear out anything that does not serve you and does not propel you and help you in becoming the type of person that you want to become. And really accessing your true potential here. Because I believe that we're all here to experience life and have fun and see what it's like to be a human and to really find out what our true potential could be. And if anything gets in the way of that, can we just purge it? And this is something really good to do. If you've never done it before, do it this weekend. Okay, take a day. I know it's a lot of work. Hey, so is also creating the life that you want. But it will benefit you and be able to have more mental clarity, more space when you start to purge the things that you don't really need anymore. So that is how you access your true potential. So that's what I got for you for today. If you love this podcast episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in at Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. And I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single podcast episode. Make it your mission to make someone else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. And just because we think something long enough, it becomes a belief that we hold does not make them actual facts in reality. And beliefs about ourself create our identity. Today, we're going to be talking about why change is so hard, why you resist change, and then how to make sure that your change that you put in your life actually sticks. And so we're going to talk a lot about beliefs. We're going to talk a lot about your identity, what you think of yourself, your self-limiting beliefs. And we're going to really dive deep into that because I want you to understand this before we dive in. Just because you believe something doesn't make it true. So we have thoughts inside of our head. And then those thoughts, if we think the same thoughts long enough, they eventually turn into some form of a belief. And just because we think something long enough, it becomes a belief that we hold does not make them actual facts in reality. And beliefs about ourself create our identity. And if we believe something long enough, it doesn't make it a fact. We just assume, oh, well, it must be a fact because it's been going around in my head for so long. I think that the most important thing that somebody can do in their life to change their life is to change their beliefs about themselves. And if they have enough beliefs about themselves, that creates an identity. And your identity is who you think you are. And so if you could change your beliefs about yourself, if you can change your identity, who you think you are, then you can actually start to change the actions that you take. And long-term, those actions that you take turn into habits. So the root of all of this that we're going to talk about here is that humans do not like inconsistency. They make us feel like there might be some form of a threat. Like we don't like being with somebody who believes different than we believe. This is why people who are political, They only want to hang out with the other people who believe the same political stuff they do. A lot of people who are religious only want to hang out with other people who believe the same religious stuff that they do. And the reason why is because when you're around somebody else who believes differently than you do, your quote unquote solid ground of belief that you think that you stand on can start to feel like quicksand. And when your beliefs that are not solid ground and you thought were solid ground start to feel like quicksand, we start to feel threatened. And so we'd rather just hang around people who believe all of the exact same stuff that we do, because in our beliefs about ourselves, our identity doesn't have to come into question. And so when we come across some form of inconsistency in our belief patterns, we want to restore consistency as soon as possible. And we try to do this through basically one of two ways. Number one is we rationalize behaviors or beliefs. We try to explain away what we did or what the person that we follow did and why that belief is okay or whatever it might be, because we're trying to re-solidify the quicksand that we're standing on. Or a lot of times, more often than not, people trivialize it. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. They don't know what they're talking about. This person's here and trying to tell me this thing that's different than my beliefs. Like, they're just not as smart as I am. They must not have read this book that I've read. And so it's really interesting because it brings in this question, like, why do we want consistency so much? Why do we not want inconsistency? Why do we feel like we need resolve? And it really comes down to, it starts to make us feel physically uncomfortable when we are finding something that is inconsistent with the way that we think the world is, or our belief systems, or our beliefs just about ourselves. We feel physically uncomfortable. They've actually shown that your heart rate a lot of times will start to increase. You'll actually experience some shortness of breath. Some people get fidgety. This is the reason why experts can identify when somebody is lying just by looking at their body language, is because literally the lie itself is inconsistent with the truth. And so it causes a physical and mental discomfort. And so we feel like we have to restore consistency so that we can feel better physically and also mentally. And so basically as a human, because we build our identity of ourself is built on a set of beliefs, which are not factual in reality, but they're just a set of beliefs that we've built. We always want to know who we are and where we stand. We always want to know who we are, where we stand. And anytime, people can call this the ego, anytime the ego is threatened, it usually in some sort of way wants to clap back to make sure that it's like, no, this is who I am. This is my firm person, this belief of who I am, my identity of the type of person. This is also why, like, when someone on one side of politics or religion says something to somebody on the other side of politics or religion that's threatening their beliefs, what do? They usually try to bring that person down. They try to trivialize that person. Oh, they don't know what they're talking about. They're not as smart as me. They're not as educated. And the reason why is because it causes this cognitive dissonance, which is what's going on in our head and what we think of ourselves and our beliefs about reality don't actually line up. And really what it comes down to is there's this thing that's inside of us that's called, in psychology, it's called the principle of consistency. Is because of the fact that we build this identity of ourselves and we have a set of belief patterns around it. We have this self-image to uphold. And this image of who we are in our heads to uphold, we have to do everything that we can to keep it that way because it's so fragile, because it's not actually real, that we have to try to fight to keep it alive. This is why a lot of times I'll see people like fight for their insecurities. And so to challenge that self-image makes us extremely uncomfortable. And so we have to push away or we have to fight anything that comes against it. And this is why change is so hard. This is the reason why change is so hard. Not because you need to take different actions, you need to create different habits. Yes, those things are important. But if your identity doesn't line up with those habits and those actions, you're not going to do them. And if you do them, you won't do them long term. This is why somebody can have so much trouble trying to create a habit. It's so damn hard to create a habit. And the reason why is because you actually have to change the identity of who you are so that it lines up with the actions and habits that you're creating. This is why change is so hard, is because it requires you to shift your own personal beliefs about yourself. There's this thing that we have in psychology inside of our brains called the confirmation bias, right? It's basically like having a filter on your brain that only allows you to see what you agree with or what you want to be true. So it's about looking basically for evidence for what you believe in and then ignoring anything that's against that. So we will look through this filter to see the evidence of our own personal beliefs about the world or about ourselves. So whenever we see a story or we look through a lens of our own beliefs, it makes us feel comfortable. We're looking for that evidence that supports our beliefs that we already have versus looking at evidence from the other side, which might make us feel as if we're wrong. And so let me give you a few examples of what I'm talking about, because we'll always search for evidence to confirm what we think about ourselves and disregard the evidence that proves otherwise. And so let's say if your belief about yourself, which is common for many people I hear all the time, is something along the lines of like, I'm unlovable, or that can translate into many different things like, oh, there's no good men in my city, right? So it's like the I'm unlovable transmutes to there's no good men in my city, or I'm too old to get into relationships. And so let's say, unlovable is what you have inside of your head and what you believe about yourself. Usually it comes from some form of childhood, your relationship with your parents, whatever it might be. So maybe you have a friend that cancels your plans. They were going to go out with you, they cancel plans. And in your head, you're like, of course they would cancel their plans because nobody wants to spend time with me. So it lines up with what you think of yourself. So you basically take that evidence, you store it away as, hey, see, I'm unlovable. Let's say somebody doesn't respond to your text in a certain amount of time. Oh, they're probably ignoring me because they don't care. I'm going to take that piece of evidence, I'm going to store it away as true because why? It lines up with what I think about myself. And so let's say, for instance, a friend, though, surprises you with a thoughtful gift. Well, what you do is instead of taking that and storing it as true, we try to trivialize that thing. Oh, they're just being nice to me. They probably feel sorry for me. Let's say that your partner takes you out to a nice dinner and really you can tell they mean it and they say, I love you. And it's like you take that and you don't store that one as evidence. You might say something like, they don't really mean it. They're just saying it out of habit or because they feel like they have to. You see what I mean? Like there's many times where, and this is the reason why a lot of people have a whole lot of trouble with accepting some form of a compliment from somebody else, is because a lot of times that compliment doesn't line up with what they think about themselves. Like one of the things that I see a lot of times is that women are very, when they get around their friends, they're very positive, affirming of each other. And I see it all the time. I see it with my wife's friends when they come over and when they're in groups and stuff. And it's not just women, but I see this a lot of times just in these social settings where they're like, oh my God, you look so pretty. And then immediately what will happen is the person will then take that and flip it. And so they'll say, because it doesn't line up with their view of themselves, oh my God, you look so pretty. Oh yeah, but I've gained 5 extra pounds and I hate the way these jeans fit on me. They immediately smash the little bit of, in that moment, they smash the little bit of evidence that proves that their belief about themselves is not true. And so they're always looking for the thing. Our brain is always looking for evidence of truth to what we believe about ourselves. If you believe, I'm unattractive, well, then somebody doesn't compliment your new outfit. Well, you're just like, well, I guess it looks bad on me because I'm not good looking. Maybe you see an unflattering photo of yourself when you're out with your friends and someone posts it on Instagram. You're like, see, I knew I wasn't photogenic. I'm not good looking. But let's say, for instance, that you receive a compliment from a stranger like I was talking about. Oh, they're just being polite. Or maybe your partner says, oh my gosh, you look beautiful today. He's just saying that because he has to. And so what happens is we're always trying to find this evidence and we're always trying to disregard the evidence, trying to find the evidence that proves that what we think about ourselves is true. We're trying to get rid of the evidence that proves that what we think about ourselves is not true in this case, right? So your belief about yourself is I'm not good enough. And you go and you put in a job application and you get rejected for your job application. Well, this proves that I'm not good enough for anything. You make a mistake on your presentation for something. Everyone must think that I'm a failure. All of this evidence gets stored away as true. But maybe, for instance, you go out and you receive praise for excellent work on a project that you did at work. Oh, they don't really mean it. They're just being nice. Maybe you win an award for something like a performance that you did. Oh, it's probably because there was no one else that was better. You see what I'm trying to say here is we're always trying to find evidence for what we believe about ourselves, and we're always disregarding the evidence that proves that what we believe about ourselves is not actually true. Maybe you think that you're a bad parent, so you forget to pack your child's lunch one day, and you're like, see, this is just proof that I'm not good at parenting. Maybe you struggle to calm down your son while he's in the middle of a temper tantrum. It's like, see, I can't even manage my own kid. And then maybe on the other side of that, so that's the evidence that you're looking for. Maybe on the other side of it, you go in for a meeting with the child's teacher and they talk about how well behaved your kid is. You've done such a great job at raising him. Oh, well, she probably says that to all of the parents to make them feel good, right? Or your child says, I love you, and thank you for being so amazing. They don't understand what a bad parent I am. So you're trying to trivialize this thing. And so what I want you to start to think about in this case is when you're looking at what you want to create with your life, when you're looking at, say, the next 6 months, the next year of your life, and what you want to create, we can consciously sit there and say, oh my God, I want to create this amazing business. I want to create this amazing relationship. And you can consciously want to create something different than you have. But if your beliefs about yourself don't line up with the future that you want to create, the only thing that you need to do is change your beliefs about yourself. And once again, the reason why this is important is because your beliefs about yourself are just thoughts that you have thought for a long time, and you think that they are true. But just because you think something doesn't make it true. And just because you have a belief does not make it a fact in the universe. Like if I were to look at your tag that you were made up from, how like you can look at like, oh, this is 5% polyester, 95% cotton. If I were to look at the tag that of what you're made up, would it say, oh, not good enough, unlovable? This one was born with the deficiency in this way. No, it's not going to say that, which means that you're the only one that's holding this belief about yourself. And if you don't change the belief about yourself, change is not going to happen. And I think this is what's really important, especially this time of year. So many people want to create a different life. They want to do something different. They read books about how to create habits, how to take different action, and they try it for a little while and it doesn't stick. And they're like, damn it, I just can't change myself. Well, the reason why you can't change the actions that you take, you can't change the habits that are stuck inside of you, is because the actions that you need to take to create a different life don't line up with what you think about yourself. So you need to change what you think about yourself. What is the belief that you must have in order to create a new life? Get rid of all of your own beliefs. Like, just act like they don't exist. Okay, here's the life that I want to create over the next 12 months. What is the belief that you must have about yourself in order to make that possible? And what you do is you identify it. You get very clear on it. Make sure there's some form of emotional attachment to it. So it feels like, yeah, this one's definitely got some weight to it. And you start to actually brainwash yourself, like brainwash it into yourself. Brainwash it into yourself, say it over and over and over and over again. Write it down on a paper 100 times a day. Wake up in the morning, say it 100 times yourself. Go to the bed in the evening, say it 100 times yourself. Say it so much that it's a broken record inside of your head, because if you say it long enough, guess what happens? Yeah, just like all of your old crappy beliefs where you just started to believe them somehow, if you say something long enough, eventually you start to believe it. And when your old beliefs pop up, because they will, old habits die hard. They're going to fight when they're trying to be squashed. When the old habit or belief pops up, you stop what you're doing in that moment and you repeat your new belief about yourself over and over and over again. Your BS meter, I promise you, will go off. It's going to go crazy in the first week of doing this, the first couple weeks of doing this. But as you do this for 2 months, for 3 months, for 6 months, it starts to become like a new song that's stuck inside of your head. And so it really comes down to, if I'm going to change, sure, I need to change my actions. Sure, I need to change my habits. But ultimately, I need to change my identity of myself. I need to change my beliefs about myself. I need to change my thoughts about myself so that they line up with the type of person that I need to be to create the life that I want to create. So That's all I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, I'm actually going to be going much, much, much deeper into this on my workshop that's coming up on January 15th and 16th. I'm going to teach why habits don't stick and how to actually get them to stick based off of your identity and your beliefs about yourself. A big, big part of that is identity and beliefs. So if you want to join me, it's absolutely free to join it. It is habits2025.com to sign up. Once again, habits with an S, 2025.com. And with that, I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Hey, based off of you watching this video, YouTube thinks that this video right here is the best video for you to watch to help you learn and grow and improve yourself right now. So click that. Welcome to today's episode of the Mindset Mentor Podcast. I am your host, Rob Dial. Today, I'm going to be giving you 2 steps to mastering your emotions. Now, before we dive in, I found that a lot of people don't really tend to understand emotions. They don't know why they're here, where they come from. They just tend to be these things that just kind of pop up out of nowhere. Something happens, and then an emotion comes. It just kind of comes. And it usually comes without any sort of control. It's not like we control them. They just kind of pop up, right? And when they're there, they're now there. And now we have to figure out a way to deal with them. And so really what I'm doing is I'm going to teach you how to have better control over your emotions so that you can also understand them better when they do pop up. And so it's like, how can we understand the emotion? How can we understand why it's here, where it's coming from, why the emotion exists? And then also, when it does come up, how can I control them better so it just doesn't turn into some shit show? And so let's go through. There's 2 very simple steps. The first step is to stop trying to control your emotions. Now, you might be sitting there like, wait, hold on. I thought this whole thing was talking about how to control your emotions. It is. But the first thing that you have to do is you have to stop trying to control them, because I promise you, by the end of this is all going to make sense. But the first thing you try to do is to stop trying to control your emotions. And the reason why is because emotions are here. And emotions a lot of time have to do with something from the past. And what you really need first off, before like trying to control them, is you need a safe space to let your emotions run. And so for different people, this could be a bunch of different things. This could be, screaming, crying, yelling, punching a pillow, taking that pillow and beating the bed with it, whatever it is that you need to do to get your emotions out without hurting yourself, without hurting other people as well. Because really what it comes down to is a lot of us have emotions built up in our body that we suppressed as a child, that we suppressed through being bullied from people. We suppressed because teachers told us that we couldn't cry or whatever. You were a boy in sports and boys don't cry. And so we have emotion that we have suppressed. And it's basically like emotional constipation. And with emotional constipation, it's like you need to get it out, but it's just kind of stuck, right? I don't know if you've ever felt that way. Where you're like, I feel like there's an emotion that needs to come out, but it's just kind of like stuck there. I can't really get this emotion out. It's not really a huge deal until you've been holding on for way longer than you need to. Constipation is not really a big deal until you've been holding on to it for too long. Your emotions are not really a huge deal until you've been holding on to them for too long. Because what happens, after a while, they become very, very serious. And really, too many people try not to have emotions. You're taught not to have emotions. You're taught not to cry, not to be a certain way. And for some people, it might be like, hey, you were taught, big boys don't cry. So then maybe when you were a little boy, you were taught not to cry. Now you're older in life and it's like, you don't even know how to cry anymore. It's like it's completely taken out of you. Now you might be someone who's like, well, I cry really easily. Well, maybe you were told like good boys or good girls don't get angry. And so maybe there's anger that's kind of like built up inside of you that just needs to come out. And so the first step to controlling your emotions is to literally stop trying to control them. Like let them go. Let them come out of you. It is built up energy that is inside the body. And it's basically stuck inside of the body. And there's a lot of books around this. There's a lot of psychologists and that are now talking about this. One of them is, I think it's called The Body Keeps Score, where it's like your body will actually hold on to certain emotions. And it's basically like you're stuck in time in that emotion, in that place that your body's holding on to it. Emotions are basically energy that your body needs to release, right? It's energy that your body needs to release. And that's why you can see children, you're like, oh my gosh, they're so much more emotional. The reason why they're emotional is because they're actually doing what they're supposed to do. They're actually releasing the emotions that are supposed to be released. So you need to release them, but you also need to figure out a way to release them in a very safe manner. Safe for yourself, but also safe for other people as well. And so whatever that might mean to you, to let go of it. For you, it might be letting yourself cry uncontrollably. For you, it might be giving your anger a voice and then just allowing it to happen, screaming at the top of your lungs, finding a pillow and screaming and cussing and yelling into it for as long as you can, beating the shit out of the pillow, beating the shit out of the bed with the pillow, all of this stuff. It might maybe screaming at the top of your lungs in the shower. It might be any of those things. But really what it comes down to is the right way to release all of these emotions is fully your decision. This is the thing that you need to figure out. The important part of it, though, is to think of it as like an emotional constipation. It's like a river that has been dammed up. And with that, it's being held back. It's being held back. It's being held back. And with a lot of that, when you hold a river back, if you were to think about the amount of pressure that a dam holds back, if there's just a little bit of a crack, it breaks the whole thing down. And what happens is that emotional constipation gets a little bit of a crack in it. And then what happens? And your emotional constipation turns into emotional diarrhea all over somebody because of something that happened, right? And so something happens that has nothing to do with any of the things in the past, and you just explode on somebody. That person doesn't deserve that. What happened is you took the past, this dammed up river with all this pressure and pressure and pressure. It's built up, and then it just explodes all over one person, right? And so that emotional constipation turns into emotional diarrhea, and now we've just messed some things up. And so you have to ask yourself, and you've got to, and I know it's probably the most beautiful analogy I could have used. You're welcome for talking about emotional constipation, emotional diarrhea. It's beautiful because now you all have visuals, and everyone has a different visual in your head, right? So if we're thinking of it this way, we need to ask ourselves, what do I need to start doing in order to allow myself to process my emotions? What do I need to start doing to process my emotions safely? Hey, if you're loving this episode, please do me a massive favor. Give us a like down below. And then if you have any things that you want me to cover in future episodes, go ahead and comment them down below in the comments. The way that I feel that I should, so if you were taught not to cry and then you're like, you know what? Humans cry. Humans have emotions. Maybe I need to unprogram this side of me out. And I need to feel things. I need to experience things. I need to allow myself to experience emotions. Okay, cool. Love that. Well, what do you need? What does that look like for you? Because what it looks like for you looks completely different for somebody else. So that's the thing that you really need to figure out is what does that mean for you? So that's step number one, is to stop trying to control that emotion. Let it happen. Just let it all out. Step number two, become curious about your emotions. So a lot of times what we do is emotions will come up and we'll feel them. And a lot of times we judge ourselves. Like, oh, I shouldn't have acted that way. Oh, I shouldn't have been this way. Oh, I'm sorry that I was so emotional. I'm sorry that I was acting this way, whatever it might have been. And we feel bad. We shame ourselves. We guilt ourselves. When in reality, what we really should do is we should start to become curious about all of them. But I would recommend that you become curious about it after the emotions have gone through. So let's say somebody says something to you, whatever it might be, and you just go off. And all of this anger that's inside of your body just explodes all over this person. Right then is not the best time to try to figure out why you feel the way that you feel. Because when your emotion is high, your logic is low. When your emotion is high, there's actually a part of your brain that's the thinking part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, that kind of turns off. And so you can't really think. There's no executive function in your brain at that time. And so really what you want to do is when emotion is high, logic is low. Not try to process it then. After whatever happens, anger comes out, all of that, an hour later, when you've calmed down a little bit, start to become curious about it. Why did that happen? That person said that to me, and then this is the emotion that came out of me. Why? Why was it that way? And you start to become really curious. And what I would recommend that you do is you grab a pen and paper and you actually start to write down what you're thinking, what you're feeling, why you think it happened, and see if maybe you can take that current, present day, today emotion and connect it to something that happened in the past. And you might say, oh man, the reason why I reacted to what that woman said to me was because she reminded me of something that my dad used to say when I was younger that made me feel small, that made me feel not listened to, that made me feel worthless. And then you can actually start to connect present day emotions that are now being diarrheaed all over other people because you're being emotionally constipated to past feelings, events, all of those things that maybe you just at a young age were not emotionally intelligent enough to actually work through and process. Why did I feel that way? Why did I react that way? Why did that thing trigger me? What was my reaction to that thing that triggered me? Because really what it comes down to is, and I say this all the time, and I get so many messages on Instagram, people saying, thank you for saying this, but it's not about what happens to you. It's about why you were triggered in the first place. Whatever that trigger was, why were you triggered? Because it's not the person's fault that said the thing to you. It's your fault for the way you reacted. Because I reacted that way because that person said this thing to me, that puts you in a victim standpoint. And when you're a victim, there's nothing that you can do about it. But instead of saying, well, I reacted that way because that person said that to me, victim, you say, I reacted that way and I was triggered because this is something that happened and I don't want to do that again. And I was triggered because it reminded me of something that happened to me 5 years ago with my husband, or reminded me of something that my mom used to say to me, or whatever it might be for you. It's different for everybody. But really what it comes down to is you have to take ownership for the things that the way that you react. So many adults in the world are just grown-up children. They have emotions, they have reactions, and they blame everybody else for it versus saying, I need to take ownership for my reactions. At some point in time, you just got to be a fucking adult, right? Imagine somebody saying, well, I acted that way because of what this person said to me. I act this way because they hurt my feelings. That's such a victim, childish way of coming about something versus saying like, you know what? I shouldn't have reacted that way. I was triggered because of XYZ. It was my fault. I need to apologize to that person. And so really what we need to do is we need to start becoming curious as to why we react certain ways. And I always say this, and I really truly believe it, is that someone that triggers you is giving you a gift. It's not someone to be mad at. It's not someone to be pissed off at. It's like, man, they triggered me so bad. And I am so grateful that they triggered me. And the reason why I'm grateful is because they are showing me where I am not free in my own mind. Because nobody, I don't know how many times I've said this on the podcast, nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. Eleanor Roosevelt said that years ago. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, that person talked down to me and they made me feel a certain way, no. Your reaction was your choice. Whether you realize it or not. It might have been a real split-second choice, but somebody said something to you and you decided, oh, I'm going to put myself into a victim standpoint. Oh, I'm going to feel really hurt about this. In reality, what we're trying to do, and part of really becoming more of an adult, is choosing our reaction versus allowing our reaction just to be something that is an automatic thing that seems like it's coming up from the depths of our past. And so really what it comes down to is it has nothing to do with the event. It has nothing to do with what somebody said to you. It has everything to do with your reaction to the event. So why did you react that way? Because it was your choice to react that way. It wasn't the person's fault. It wasn't what they said. It wasn't anything else. It was your fault based off of your reaction. And when you can say that and actually fully take acceptance of it, it now puts you in a place of power. And so over time, when you start to put yourself into a place of power, you start to learn about your triggers, you start to learn about your emotions, allow yourself to process them, you make a connection between today and what happened in the past, you start to see where they come from. What's really interesting about it is over time, they start to have less control over you. They start to have less control of you. And you start to be more in control of your own emotions. Simply by taking this two-step process. You're able to see where they're coming from, you're able to work through them, and you're able to master your emotions. And so over time, that is how you take control of your emotions. The first thing, stop trying to control them. Let them go through, let them process, give yourself permission to do it. And then number two, the second thing, start to become curious about it. Where do they come from? Why are they this way? Is there a connection between what just happened and something that happened in my past, or something that happened with bullies when I was younger, or something that happened with teachers, something that happened with my parents? And you actually start to become curious of them. you can start to see them coming up, work through them immediately, and then actually start to master your emotions from there. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in it, Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. And I'm going to leave you the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission, make somebody else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Welcome to today's episode of the Mindset Mentor Podcast. I am your host, Rob Dial. If you have not yet done so, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another podcast episode. And if you're out there and you love this podcast, please do me a favor, give us a rating and review. The more positive rating reviews that we get, the more that they actually show this, the platforms show this podcast, people who have never listened to it before. So if you want to help us grow and you want to help us impact more lives, just give us a rating and review. I would greatly appreciate it. Today, I'm going to be talking about where you're going. I'm going to be talking about how to turn your life around no matter where you are. I don't care where your life, in fact, if I'm being fully transparent, I don't really care where your life is right now. Whether it is amazing or whether it's complete shit. It doesn't really matter. What I'm more worried about and what I care more about is where you're going, what direction your life is heading in. Because you could have a terrible past. You could have not the best circumstances right now, but if you are heading in the right direction, you will eventually get where you're trying to go. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about where you're going, but most importantly, how to actually get there. And I'm going to talk about this first. The first thing I want to say is that we live in a world where I think it's getting harder and harder and harder to be patient. It's really hard to be patient nowadays. And the reason why is because we expect everything to happen right away. If I have any question in the entire world, I can just literally Google it. Hey, how fast is the speed of light? And immediately I know exactly how fast the speed of light is. When I was a kid, that wasn't an option. We would have to go to the library. I'd have to ride my bicycle to the library and hope that when I got there, the right encyclopedia was there. And if it wasn't, I would never know how fast the speed of light is. Now it's I have a question, I have an answer. I have a question, I have an answer. If I want something, I go on Amazon. There's a lot of times I can get it delivered today. If I want to get to someplace and I don't want to drive, I can literally hire a taxi basically and have an Uber or a Lyft arrive at my house within the next 5 minutes. If I'm hungry, I don't even have to get my ass off the couch. I can literally just order some food and get food delivered to my house and not have to go anywhere. If I don't want to go into the grocery store, because I never, ever want to go in any grocery stores, I just have my groceries delivered to me. And that's just set up that way. Every morning I just wake up and the food delivery is already there. It's wild. And so we're actually starting to train ourselves to want things immediately. And I think this is why so many people are sad that they don't have the success they want, because they think they're going to work for 4 days and they're going to have the success they want. How ridiculous is that to think, you know what? I'm going to work for 4 days and then I'm going to have $1 million business. It doesn't work that way. There are some things that the convenience of Google, the convenience of Amazon, Uber are just not going to be able to help us with. I can't just go on Amazon and just get in overnight shipping $1 million business. It doesn't happen that way. Great things take time to build the body that you want. You can't just walk into the gym and think that you're going to leave the gym with a six-pack. It doesn't work that way. There are things that just take time. It's like going, oh, she's pregnant. Could we hurry this up? Could we get it done in the next 3 months? No, you can't. You've got to wait. For great things take time. Creating a baby takes time. Creating a six-pack takes time. Creating $1 million business takes time. But we're starting to be trained more and more and more to expect things immediately. And that's just not the way that the world really actually works. That's the way that the internet has provided us the convenience for a lot of things. But don't misconstrue convenience for the way that the entire world works. If you think about 100 years ago, if you wanted some strawberries 100 years ago, you would have to go buy the seeds. Hopefully whatever grocery store you went to or whatever place it was had the seeds. Let's say not even 100 years ago. Let's say 300 years ago you wanted strawberries, just because there were probably grocery stores 100 years ago. Let's say 300 years ago you wanted strawberries. You would have to go and see if you could find strawberry seeds. You would have to wait for the right time of year to plant your strawberry seeds. You would have to plant your strawberry seeds. You would have to water them. You'd have to take care of them for a few months. You'd have to make sure they get the right amount of sun. And hopefully in these few months that you're trying to grow these strawberries, you've been waiting 6 months for the right time of year. You've planted them. It's been a couple months for them to start growing. Hopefully another animal doesn't come and eat them before you do. like right before they start to ripen. Now I can literally sit on my couch, have a craving for strawberries, go on my iPhone, order them, and some dude named Travis, who's a student at the local university, will deliver them to my front door, and my big ass doesn't even have to get off the couch, right? Like it's pretty crazy if you think about it. So it used to take a long time, like going and getting strawberry seeds, getting the strawberries to grow, waiting for the right time of year, all of which took months and months and months. Now it's just like I get them delivered to the door and I'm like, that took too, oh my gosh, these aren't as ripe as I wanted them to be. Like, and we could complain about the fact that we literally, like, magic just happened. I just got strawberries delivered to my door and that's what I wanted. It didn't used to be that way, but we've been indoctrinated to believe that everything happens this way. And we've been indoctrinated to have instant gratification. We can't have instant gratification for everything, because that's not the way that most things work. Birthing a child. Like I said, imagine a husband going up and being like, hey, honey, like I would like to go, can we either like speed this process up? If we could just like, I know the baby's supposed to take 9 months to be ready, but like, do you think maybe you could try to speed it up and we can get done in 3 so we could take a vacation by the end of the year? You'd be like, this guy must be insane. Why is it any different with a business? Why is it any different with the fitness that you want? Why is it any different with the relationship? All of these things take time. And today I'm going to talk to you about why the direction that you're heading in is way more important than the speed that you're going at, because everybody wants speed immediately, right? We see these people that are like 27 years old, like this random, completely out of the ordinary kid builds an app and becomes a billionaire in like 6 months. That's not normal, right? That's just not normal. Is it happen? Sure. Could it happen to us? Maybe, but I don't have an idea that's that good. So many people get an idea for a business. They start the business. Maybe they do a little bit of research. They put in some work, and 3 months later, they're pissed off that they're not doing $1 million a month yet. And they're just like, this must not have been the right business. Or maybe I'm just not that good of a business person. I'll just go back to my 9 to 5. No, that's just not how business works. You know, it usually just doesn't blow up like that. Do some companies, like the unicorn companies? Sure, but it takes time. Like if I look at my business, right? If I would have given up in three months, I would have never grown my business. It took me 3.5 years for my business to first hit its first $1 million, right? What if I would have given up in the beginning because I was like, it must not be right. Yeah, I must not be good enough. I'm not smart enough. It's like I constantly, the older that I get, the more the Tony Robbins phrase, people underestimate what they could do in a year. They overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in a decade. Somebody say that again. People overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they could do in a decade. They think that things are going to happen quicker than they're supposed to, but when you look at the next 10 years, it's usually a lot bigger than you actually thought it could be. Like now, my business, we're 7.5 years into it, and I really get that phrase. I really get that phrase now. Did I want to run $1 million business when I first started it? Sure. But just like the strawberries, it takes time to grow. There's mistakes that need to be had. There's things that have to happen in this world. There's knowledge that I have to get into my brain. There's things that I have to fuck up really bad in order to not do that again. Like there's things I have to learn. And everybody wants, like, I keep using the business as an example. Everybody wants a successful business. But if you look at like, a lot of people look at like, the first person that pops in my head is Andy Frisella, right? Andy Frisella runs a $100 million a year company right now. But if you listen to his story, he barely broke even for the first 2 years, and him and his brother slept in their warehouse because they couldn't afford rent, right? Everybody sees a $100 million a year business. They're like, I want that. I want that. Very few people are willing to work, barely break even, and also sleep inside of the warehouse for 2 years. But they have to put in the work. They have to put in all of the groundwork and all of the hard work in order for it to become, like, you've got to have, for him, in his case, in the way that his company matured, he had to have those 2 years of sleeping in the warehouse in order to build a $100 million a year business. So it really comes down to like, how bad do you want it? If people overestimate what they could do in a year, but they underestimate what they could do in a decade, are you willing to go, this business I'm starting today, I'm going to put 10 years into it? Are you? That's the mindset that you have to have. Like we were talking today, my team and I, the executives on the team, we were talking about something we were working on. I said, I'm not focusing on this year. I'm focusing on what we're going to be doing in 10 years. And that's the actual vision that I'm trying to work off of. I'm not going to make little tiny decisions of like, oh, we can make money here and we can do this. It's like, no,
where are we going? Where do I want to be in 10 years? What's the direction that we're heading? And I want to take actions that are in line with that. And so it comes back to how bad do you really want it? Like, you have to realize it's going to take time. Slow and steady wins the race. So many people are the hare nowadays. I just want to be the tortoise. Like, I'm just going to slow and steady win the race. I used to love Tortoise and the Hare when I was a kid. And so I think it's just ingrained into me of like, slow and steady wins the race. Slow and steady. Like, I made up my mind years ago, I will just outlast everybody. That's just what I'm okay with doing. All right, could I go and try to speed things up? Maybe. Is it going to work out the way I want to? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm cool with slow and steady wins the race. I'm just focusing on the direction that I'm heading. And if I'm heading in the right direction, no matter how fast I'm going, eventually I'm going to get there. And if you just don't stop, you can't fail. Like, what's crazy is that so many people are afraid of failing. Like, they start a business and then they become afraid of failing at that business. So they close the business down. And I'm like, wait, so you were afraid of failing, so you failed faster? Like, that doesn't make any sense in my head. You were afraid of failing, so what you did was you took all of the wrong actions and shut it down so that you would then fail faster. So this thing that you're afraid of, you created quicker. No, if you just don't give up, it's impossible to fail at something. If you just continue to build the business, you will eventually have a successful business. Could the business suck for 2, 3, 4 years? It could. Could it take off year 7? It could. Could it take off month 7? It could. I don't know how long the universe has decided that it's going to take for you to get XYZ, whatever it is, but as long as you're heading in the right direction, you will eventually get there. So we talk about time and how long things can take. That's why I don't really care about the speed that you're going, right? So let's talk about where you are going, because that's the most important part of everything. Because if you're heading the right direction and you don't stop, eventually you're going to get there. Like, it just makes sense. Like, if I live in Miami and I decide that I'm going to just start walking north on I-95, eventually I'm going to end up in Jacksonville. It's just the way it goes. Like, could I get there faster? Sure. Could I take a bike? Could I take a car? Could I take a plane? Yeah. But sometimes bike, car, and plane don't exist when you're building a business, when you're building a great relationship, when you're raising great children. Sometimes these things just take time to mature. And it's kind of like God and the universe has its own time that things will happen. I've just got to make sure that myself, I'm taking the right action and I'm heading in the right direction. Because if you think about it, like I said, if you just are heading in the right direction, you just don't stop, eventually you're going to get there. So where are you going in your life? Do you know? Do you know where you want your life to be? Like, a lot of times I'll sit down with people and I'll say, so what do you want in life? And they're like, oh, well, you know, I don't want this and I don't want this and I don't want this. And I'm like, whoa. I didn't ask what you don't want. I want to know what you want. And they're like, okay, what do I want? Well, I do want this and I do want this and I don't want this and I don't want this and I don't want this. And I'm like, hold on, how do we get back onto what you don't want? I don't give a damn about what you don't want. I want to know what you want. So many people are just not clear on exactly what it is that they want in life. And then they get pissed off that they don't get it. It's like, it's in the Bible, I think, right? Ask and you shall receive. Are you just asking for what you want? Like, are you very clear on what it is that you want and asking for it and working towards it and heading in the right direction every single day? So, like, what are your goals for the next year? What are your goals for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years? Like, have you sat down with a pen and paper and actually written down what it is that you want? What do I want? What do I want to be? Who do I want to be? What do I want the people in my life to look like? How do I want to, what do I want the people in my life to be? Who do I want to be surrounded by? How much money do I want to make? Where do I want to live? Who do I want to marry? Do I want kids? How many kids? What do I want my kids to be like? How do I want to treat my family? And you start getting really clear on what it is that you're trying to create. And you get really clear. And after you get really clear on where you're going, then what you need to do is you need to make a plan of how to actually get there. Like, with pen and paper. Not in your own freaking head. The amount of people that try to plan out their lives and figure out what they want in their heads is crazy. It doesn't make any sense. Only 3% of people write down their goals. 97% of people either don't set goals or they don't write them down. How are you going to plan out your entire life and what you want without writing it down? Do you have a plan where you want to go? I always love to give this example, right? So the immediate thing that pops in my head is this. You know, let's say we're in Miami again. And we have decided to charter a boat. And this boat is going to take us over to the Bahamas, right? And you can go from Miami to the Bahamas. It's not too long of a ride. It's like a couple hours. Let's say sun's coming up. It's a beautiful day. We're walking out to all of the boats. And we ask the captain, hey, where are we going? And he's like, oh, we're going in that direction over there. And you're like, what direction? He's like, oh, that direction over. And he's kind of moving his finger around. We're moving in that direction. Okay. How long is it going to take? Oh, it should take a couple hours, a few hours, maybe 2 to 3 hours. And you're like, okay. What are the seas like? He's like, oh, actually, I don't know. I haven't checked the seas today. So you don't know what the weather's like? No, I'm not really sure what the seas are like. I don't know what the weather's like. And you're like, okay, would you feel confident hopping into a boat with a captain, going from Florida, Miami, over to the Bahamas, if he doesn't know where he's going? He doesn't know like how long about it might take. He doesn't know what the seas are looking like, the weather's looking like, any of that stuff. Would you actually have that guy take you across? Hell no, you wouldn't, because you probably capsize and end up on the bottom side of that boat when it's flipped over and hope that the Coast Guard comes and gets you, right? It's wild. And so would you feel more confident if you sat down and you said with the captain, hey, where are you going? And he's like, oh, we're going to be heading that direction, east and a couple degrees off to the side. So we're basically going this direction. Cool. How long is it going to take? About an hour and 15 minutes if we're heading at 30 knots. Okay, cool. What's the weather look like? Oh man, it's perfect weather. It's going to be perfect weather. You might as well just crack open a beer. Seas are real small. There's no rain, nothing like that. It's going to be a great ride over. What song do you want to listen to? I'd be like, yeah, that's the captain I'd rather go with, right? Like it's funny because you can see that, but how many of you living your life, listening to my voice right now, are living your life like the very first example of the captain? It's like, we're just going to go somewhere that direction. How's it going to take? I don't know. What's the seas look like? I don't know. Like no direction. Just going with whatever life throws at you. Just going with the winds and going with the tides, right? Like you have to know where you want to go. You have to know where you're going. You have to know what it's going to take to get there. And then after this, after you figured out where you want to go and you've created a plan, you make check-ins with yourself. You make a daily check-in and you make a weekly check-in. And all I care about is that today you're making the right act. I don't give a damn about tomorrow. Tomorrow does not matter at all to me, and it shouldn't matter to you. What I care about today is, did I take one step in the right direction, right? Tomorrow, all I care about is, did I take the next step in the right direction? If I'm walking from Miami to Jacksonville and I go one step at a time, as long as I'm taking the right steps, and I'm taking the steps in the first place, but I'm taking the right steps in the right direction, eventually I'm going to get there. And you have to realize you will mess up. You're going to screw up all the time. As I like to tell everybody that joins my programs, like we teach coaches how to grow coaching businesses, right? What I say is the first month, just fuck it up and figure it out. Just be okay with fucking everything up, right? It's not about being perfect. It's about getting more tally marks in the win category than the loss category. You know, are you going to wake up every single morning on time? No. Are you going to hit the snooze button sometimes? Yes. But are you waking up earlier more than you're not waking up? That's what matters. Are you heading in the right direction? Because your direction is so much more important than your speed. And if you can remind yourself of that and just remind yourself to keep heading in the right direction, eventually you'll get to where you're trying to go. So that's what I got for you for today's episode. If you love this episode, please share it on your Instagram stories and tag me in at Rob Dial Jr., ROBDIALJR. And I'm going to leave the same way I leave you every single episode. Make it your mission to make someone else's day better. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have an amazing day.